Good afternoon, welcome to Unsung Heroes here on Paul COX channel, where we talk to musicians because they've all got a story to tell. And today's guest is somebody I've had the pleasure of working with for a long time on and off, Mr. Dave Moore. Dave, how the devil are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you, as usual.
Thank you. Now, I was struck, Dave, when I looked at your bio, by one band in particular that I was a fan of in my teenage years, who I felt should have been an enormous band, and sadly didn't quite attain the heights they should have done. In fact, they were unsung heroes too, and that was a band called No Dice, of course. Now, while I know of your work with No Dice, can you tell the people how you got the gig, how it came about, etc.?
Well, that's fairly easy. The main man in that was a bass player, Gary Strange, and he was, say, main man. He was a songwriter.
Yeah.
And he lived above a rehearsal room in the. It's on the Finchley Road near Golders Green.
Yeah.
It's called Child's Hill, and I was rehearsing there with sort of early jazz rock effort of mine and a mate called Ritzy, that band, and one day I just got a call. I think it might have been off Diesel.
Diesel being the guitar player, that is for those who don't know.
No Dice,
He's the guitar player with No Dice. Still playing, he's still wonderful.
And yeah, so I can't remember how, but it was, do you fancy doing some stuff? We've got some demos to make.
Yeah.
And it was that at that time it wasn't for them, it was for some sort of management company or something.
Right.
But anyway, I did that, and it was all thank you very much, and off we went. And a bit later I got a similar call saying we've got to do some demos for EMI, and that no, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. So then there was another session, and that was the first decent session that I did, which was at Marquee Studios. I had a great time, and that was demoing songs to get a management deal, which they did.
And who was the management company that
they were
got
called?
you to do?
They were called MCA, and it was which essentially was Steve O'Rourke's company. Steve O'Rourke being the manager of Pink Floyd.
Oh wow!
He also had.
Well connected then.
Oh yeah, of course. yeah. Didn't mean that much to me, to be honest. But anyway, someone from MCA took No Dice on,
Right.
and he invited me to make some further demos, which was at CBS Studios off Tottenham Court Road, Charlotte Street, I think. Anyway, whatever. Another great time. I absolutely loved it. This is my first time in decent studio.
Of course, yeah.
And it was magic. So
Yeah.
Aladdin's Cave.
So those recordings led to a deal, obviously.
Yes, with EMI.
That's right. Which was what, 77?
No, before that.
76.
76.
Okay.
That's all it.
And then, because I saw you in 78 with No Dice, and I remember on conversations we've had in the past, you've mentioned how that year was quite a pivotal year for you in lots of ways.
My favourite year.
Your favourite year. Now, some of the people out there might not be aware, but No Dice toured relentlessly in both Europe and America. Can you drop? I've got a little dustbin here with all the names in that Munch is about to drop, ladies and gentlemen, because there's quite a few of them.
Oh, you mean acts that we opened for?
Absolutely. That's the sort of thing, because this is what people want to know about, because I know No Dice were a wonderful band in their own right, but you can also tell the quality of a band by and the company they mixed with, and in this particular case, this list is pretty impressive. And so take it away, Dave. The bucket is ready.
Well, the early days in 1976, which was after we'd made the album, so we were about to start, going out, touring it a bit. There were a couple of quite nice little tours. One of which was UFO. That was just in England.
In England, yeah.
Again, good good stuff. They were nice enough to us as far as I can remember. I don't remember speaking.
Yeah.
When you're the support band in those
I know.
days, you sort of get on, do your 20 minutes or 45 minutes if you're lucky,
Yeah.
and then go off and find a curry.
Yeah. Yeah.
The after gig curry or whatever.
Yeah.
Usually you drive back home as well.
Right.
Anyway, that was UFO was one. There was another really good one with the heavy metal kids.
Oh, great, yeah.
If you remember them?
I do remember them, yeah.
Gary Holton.
That's right, yeah.
That was a good.
He was the actor who played in Vidazan Pet. He was the cocky cockney.
Yeah.
But he used to front the heavy metal kids. But I'm sure the initiated amongst you knew that anyway.
That was then. So 78. No, that was all through 76, 77. God, there must have been other biggish sort of band, but I think that was it. But 78 started with Status Quo, rocking all over the world.
Oh, wonderful. Pivot. What a great tour that would have been on, because they were really riding high at that time, weren't they? You know, one of the biggest bands in.
Well, we'd done a little bit. It was quite early in the year, and we'd done a little bit. I think we did. I can't remember who it was, but we did an Old Grey Whistle test with Blondie.
Oh, wonderful!
And I've got it it's on Facebook or
I think the YouTube clip you're talking about is out there, and it's well worth checking out. They sound great.
Well, it was and Bob Harrison. They're just off to Germany on before blah blah. So that was the Status Quo.
Brilliant.
Rocking all over the world tour, which was a good month, I think.
Fantastic.
In Germany.
Great.
Breakneck speed. really good time. Great time.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was that. Then there was the Old Grey Whistle test, and then we went off to America.
Superb. Now, when you went to America, one assumes that Capitol were looking after you when you were out there, and that they put the first album out, and the people you worked with in America, there was some pretty large names that you'd opened for on those bills as well, wasn't there?
Well, yeah. They weren't that large for me, to be honest. The first few weeks, we were supporting a band called Foghat.
Yeah, I remember those.
Essentially that was the remains of about 2/3 of Savoy Brown.
Right.
Which is fairly significant blues band.
Yeah, they were absolutely, yeah.
And they were good. They were people in this country had sort of kind of labelled them the American Quo.
Gotcha.
I didn't think they were.
No. I seem to remember having an album by them at some point in that period.
There were some really good players, and they were obviously really popular at that time.
Yeah.
And the show was great. And again, I was starry-eyed. I just remember thinking, what the PA was just ridiculous. It was so good.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're getting magic sound stage shows. Anyway. Big crowds.
I was going to say, we're talking a few thousand people.
Oh, stadiums.
Stadiums, wow.
Yeah.
And of course, all this is starting. This is your first real major band, you would say.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So this is like jaw dropping.
Yeah.
Life don't get any better than this sort of moment.
Absolutely, living the dream.
Blah. And you mentioned to me in the past that there were other people on the and American acts like Eddie Money.
Yeah.
But you also opened for Rainbow.
Yeah.
As well, which is interesting,
It was.
And of course Richie Blackmore, as we know, ran Rainbow. Quite a hard taskmaster, I should imagine, and probably not one of the bands where you had a great deal of interaction with, or would I be wrong in that assumption?
Well, not greatly. I palled up with the keyboard player at the time, who was a bloke called Dave Stone.
All right.
Canadian guy. And Ronnie Dio was singing with them then.
Wonderful
Absolute
singer.
diamond.
Absolutely. Wonderful
lovely
singer.
bloke.
Yeah.
Bob Daisley was the bass player, who was okay. We did.
Excuse me.
Kind of in the shadow somewhat, I thought, but
And that was the Long Live Rock and Roll tour, wasn't it? Yeah, if I
guess.
remember rightly. I think that was their album at the time. Yeah.
I don't know. But a lot of that stuff was Richie was second on the bill to the headliner. We just opened, so there's often 3-act bills. I mean, for each.
So who would have been headlining on the when you were?
I remember REO Speedwagon was one of them.
Okay.
Richie didn't get on too well with them.
Oh right, okay. Bit of goss there, ladies and gents.
Yeah, well, you hear all sorts of stories. But he was okay. He's quite very sort of quietly spoken and sort of nod at you, but you know, I wouldn't think about it.
No, absolutely, no. So that continued.
Yeah.
You toured America, went back and did more dates in Europe.
Yeah.
Did the second album,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
And same again, more tours with big names, opening for big names, and more headline shows of your own, I would imagine.
Yes, it was. That after the second album, we were. It was more European. Everything was going. I mean, I don't know what the effect of the first one, of the American tour was. I don't know that we sold that many records. Maybe I don't. Honestly, I still don't know how it works. Back then, I was always hearing you could tour an album, was what they said.
Sure.
You sort of work it to death.
Yeah.
Do it. And if a crowd picks up on you, it's good. And there was here and there were just
some pockets of
magic.
Yeah.
Sort of. You could. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of a miserable bastard, to be perfectly honest. I don't really. I consider most audiences mobs. But then I don't really look beyond the
first couple of rows.
Yeah.
But when you're playing in places that big as well, it's difficult to focus on anything other than the first two, because it's an amorphous sea of faces that can be a little.
Some people can work an audience really well. Peachy's being one, and
of course, yeah, great frontman, great singer too, you know.
And there you go. There was all that. But
I tell you what else I was struck with you, Munch. We'll come on to why the nickname Munch comes out in a moment. Was when I was reading through what you've done, I was struck by the fact that it was a couple of names came up for me that for people who understand the sort of family tree of British blues and rock aristocracy. There's a couple of people that were in your life quite prominently that were sort of, I wouldn't say peripherals, a fair word. They were quite important figures in the burgeoning scene. One being Dick heskal-smith, of course, and the other was Pete Brown.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get involved in work that you did with those guys?
Well, after my when I left No Dice, which was the end of '79,
right?
I was on the skids for a bit and fell out, as it were, to via sort of musician pals that I knew to a place in Farnham Common in Buckinghamshire. Okay, it's a little town just outside Slough.
Yeah.
Very nice. And that was to, again via someone that I knew, that was to sort of work with Keith Hartley.
Yes.
The great
Spooky
drummer,
Tooth.
Who, no, not Spooky Tooth. No, Keith Hartley Band.
All right, but he'd been in Spooky Tooth?
No, yeah,
oh, he wasn't?
No, he wasn't.
Scrap that.
No. That was Dave Kelly.
Bad on my part.
Not Dave Kelly.
We're both at it now.
Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly was the drummer of Spooky.
That's right.
Keith Hartley was. The earliest I can remember Keith is the Artwoods.
Oh yes, sorry, yes.
The Artwoods, which was a great band with John Lord in it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Artwood, who's Ronnie Wood's brother, great singer, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But and he had various things, but the Keith Hartley band
right
should have been better. Great, had the great Miller Anderson singing and playing in it.
Wonderful singer and guitar player as well.
Yes, still is.
Yes.
But anyway, they were one of the few bands that wasn't recorded at Woodstock.
They did Woodstock. That's interesting.
Keith was told me once that it was a last minute thing, and they were in a helicopter, and he just remembers being taken over a sea of mud, and really didn't want to do it. But and he said it was good, but anyway, for some reason it never got shown. Anyway, that was Keith Hartley, and he was starting up. He lived in the vicinity, in the area, and he was starting up a gig band.
Right.
It was good. 2-horn players.
Wonderful.
Typical Keith. Really nice stuff.
Yeah.
So that's it. I was working with Keith Hartley.
Right.
In the Keith Hartley band, so it just doing pub gigs.
Yeah.
He was deserving of better, I thought. But anyway, it kind of, that was not really doing very much. And he called me up one day and said he was involved with this lot called Main Squeeze.
Right.
And they were rehearsing in town. It was a blues. Dick Heskal-Smith was in it, and that's what sold me on it.
Gotcha. So you were aware of Dick's work before that, obviously.
Oh God, yeah. Graham Bond. I was
going to say, I was going to get round to that, because I knew how big an influence on you Graham Bond was back in the day. I know you were a massive fan, and that you would go and see him on regular occasions wherever you could. And Dick was obviously in that band, so that must have been quite a fillip for you to think, playing with, I wouldn't say a hero necessarily, because that's a bit presumptuous of me, but somebody you admired a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I knew he wasn't going to be in anything sort of that wasn't really worthy.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
So that was it. So I think Pete Barnes was who from Camel.
Yes.
Had the original chair,
keyboard
chair, but I think he didn't like it much, or he wasn't. He had other things to do. I'm not
interesting actually, because Pete Barnes, if I remember rightly, he'd been involved with Rod Stewart in the 60s in a band called Shotgun Express. It was either Shotgun Express or Steam Packet, one of those two. I think it was Shotgun Express.
Yeah.
And then when
Steam Packet, that was
Brian Auger. That's right. Yeah. So I know he briefly worked with him, and there was also he did some work with Van Morrison, if I remember rightly.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he did an album with Van Morrison, played live with him.
Yeah.
And the thing about these sort of connections, people, is that it's there's a famous book called Rock Family Trees, and everybody that that works as a musician, particularly if we've been doing it a while, that the tangents shoot off all over the place, and then eventually meet up at the top somewhere, under a huge umbrella of, well, we've all worked with under that sort of auspicious of being a sort of a group together, in one way, shape or form. Even if you're not physically involved with them, you've got links to them. And I was struck by that with your bio and the Pete Brown connection, because Pete, for those who don't know, wrote the lyrics on a lot of stuff for Cream. He had a relationship with Jack Bruce back in the 60s and wrote a lot of lyrics for certain things like Sunshine of Your Love, and became a producer. He was originally a poet, wasn't he? And he was also a frontman, percussionist and all sorts of things, and did a lot of stuff in the sort of alternative scene in the 60s. But you worked with him on and off over the years as well, didn't you?
That was, once I'd been, I was very good friends with Dick. He was very good to me. I worked with. I had lots of sort of little projects on and off with him, and it was him that introduced me to Pete Brown.
Right.
Pete Brown. The connection there being, Pete Brown was he was an everything buff, but he was a pretty good jazz buff. He really liked his jazz, blues, everything. And,
sure.
And he was I guess you could say a buff. He knew his stuff.
Absolutely,
Discography, and he had a wonderful record collection and stuff. Anyway, and he, one way or another, he got Dick a deal to make a record, which he was going to produce, and that's it. Dick sort of put me in to play keys.
Oh, wonderful!
As I said, he was very good to me. Dick, bless him, was he wasn't terribly hands-on in studios. He was a bit ham-fisted actually when it came to it. Because,
sure.
He'd tend to, if you asked him to sort of press any buttons. He wouldn't. He'd fucking slam them. He wasn't terribly hands-on when it came to that. And he thought I was, simply because I'd say, don't do that thing. Let me sort of do it a bit more gently.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, we'll have to get a new machine in there because gotcha.
It's that kind of thing. But anyway,
you worked with Main Squeeze with him, and I know that Main Squeeze did quite a lot of work in both their own right, but also they did some big shows supporting big names too, didn't they?
Just the one, which was Bo Diddley.
All right, okay, but didn't you open for Joe Cocker as well?
Yeah.
That's right. That was at Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah, that was fairly early days.
Yeah.
There's always a saga, isn't there? I mean, Main Squeeze didn't have management ever.
All right.
As such, but we had agency.
Sure.
And that was when you get management and agency and all that. You know, some people would say it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, two bites of the cherry each time.
Legal language is.
I
don't understand all that. But anyway, we had these agents, and I think one of their last things that they did for us was they did get us a week at Ronnie Scott's.
That's always good.
Headlining, which was wonderful. Actually.
Yes.
A hell of a laugh.
Yeah.
Not quite as prestigious as you might think.
But I don't know. I think if you say to most musicians these days, I've done Ronnie Scott's. I think it still holds a lot of kudos for people.
Yeah,
perhaps not.
I was trying to think of it actually. I mean, I've got the album somewhere. I'm trying to
get to see Munch's CD collection in action.
Bits of it, yeah. I will get it out before we leave. But anyway, that was recorded. So that was the only album that we ever did, and it was recorded by what's his name, Tom. Oh God! See, that's why I was looking.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Remember,
it wasn't Tom Dowd.
No, it was the guy who did Tubular Bells.
Oh right, okay. Well, that's a good.
Who recorded?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
It's a whole other story.
So how long did that go on for with Main Squeeze? I mean, did it
on and off 3-4 years.
Okay. And you toured a lot, you played a lot. Eric Bell was in that band as well, wasn't he? Which is the famous guitar player from Thin Lizzy, who did the original Whiskey in the Jar and did the first 2 or 3 albums with them. And then, after the next sort of main project that I read about I know as you're a freelance musician, you'd have probably done other bits and pieces, sessions and various other things. But the next main project you had was a band called Strange Ways.
Yeah.
Now they're more of a...
No, in between them there was a band called the Hamburg Blues Band who were
oh right, okay.
Who were and still are.
I thought that was later.
No.
I thought that was a little later. So that was now. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
That was kind of in between.
Yeah.
Strange Ways was late 70s.
Right.
Late 80s.
Late 80s, yeah. So the Hamburg Blues Band, which you kind of joined and are in and out of ever since, really, haven't you?
Yeah.
In effect.
Well, more out these days. That was via the drummer from. There's always people putting me in somewhere. Thank God. The drummer in Main Squeeze, a guy called Stretch, who been with Elkie Brooks and Roger Chapman.
Yes, I know him. Yes, I do know him. I've actually seen him playing live.
Oh yeah, I mean Stretch was a bit of a one-off. He was a great groove.
Yeah.
Just everything was sort of in the pocket.
For sure.
He recently died, I'm afraid, in New Zealand. Another
one joins the long list up in heaven. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely in that great band up there.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, Stretch said he was a bit of a free spirit as well. He was playing with the Hamburgers.
Right.
I know it's not called the Hamburg Blues Band. Really good guitar player, great bass player. He was a bloke called Daryl Foderati. And the singer who's called Gert Langer, who's still doing it, still running the Hamburg Blues Band. He was, sort of being fated as the next Joe Cocker.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Very sort of bluesy.
Yeah.
And that was it. I did a couple of gigs for them.
Right.
In Hamburg.
Great.
That was it.
Well, am I correct in thinking with the Hamburg Blues Band that they have taken various guests over the last few years to front the band, along with your man, like
yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's that fact.
Maggie Bell is, I believe,
Maggie Bell was a constant guest.
Yes, great singer from a band called Stone the Crows. Sang on Rod Stewart's album, the old Every Picture Tells a Story. She does a great duet with Rod on that. So
Mike Harrison from Spooky Tooth.
That's where I got the Spooky Tooth bit from. I knew there was a reference to it there somewhere.
Yeah, he was with them for a bit. Clem Clemson from Coliseum.
Oh well,
still is.
Yeah.
From time to time.
Yeah.
Coliseum's back.
So it's a pretty high calibre, unsung hero band in effect. Names that we would know.
Yes.
And when you tell people who they're associated with, it suddenly goes, right.
Yeah.
Which is the thing about this, is that it's the quality of the names of these people who they've worked with is the essence of what we're trying to put across, to show everybody out there that you might not know these people directly. Unless you're a real aficionado and you're digging through all album covers and you've made a mental note of every name. It's only when people like Dave and various other guests I've had on this burgeoning channel explain who it is they've worked with, suddenly it gives them the opportunity to be shown in the same light as the people they're talking about. And that's the essence of what this is about. I've admired Dave for a long time. I've always felt he was a fine, expressive keyboard player and a good producer as well. And you have done quite a bit of that, haven't you, in your time? I mean, I know you're a very modest man, but let me tell you, he has produced some cracking stuff. I mean, you had something to do with the Bop Brothers, which had Earl Green, I believe, was the singer. Wonderful singer, sadly no longer with us. I worked with Earl a few years ago in a little project called the Blues Pack. Wonderful singer, won the British Blues Vocalist Award, and understandably for many, many years used to work with Otis Grand and did loads of stuff on his own. And a wonderful singer, laconic but sort of guy, but really had the soulful, sweet voice, beautiful. And what other people have you managed to?
Well, I was looking through little references last night. The Bop Brothers, which was it's John T-Bone Taylor. So everyone calls him Bone.
Yeah,
it's T-Bone to me.
Yeah.
It's his band, and he's a terrific guitar player, but very schooled.
Yeah,
he's a bloody good musician.
Oh no, yes, I'm fully aware of him.
And
John is.
That was another thing I think that Dick introduced me to them, because he was occasionally guested with them.
Right.
But
so it's quite a nice sort of. These things have meshed together, and one thing's led to another that's brought it back to plan A again.
And John, I'm very pleased to know him, and he's been very sort of kind to me in that regard. With I produced 2 albums for them.
Wonderful.
And the second one is I say produced nominally. I sort of went in and did what I could. There are engineers who go, what is that?
I mean, that's all in the eye of the beholder. I'll just say no more than that, or the ear of the beholder.
The second one was called Bop Brothers and Sisters.
Right.
So there was a kind of cream of what was available here, namely Ruby Turner.
Wonderful. Worked with Ruby, great singer, lovely lady.
Yeah. Dana Gillespie.
Oh, legend.
Absolute legend.
Yeah. Still doing it.
Tucker Boom.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lovely little story involving her. And Connie Lush.
Of course, the wonderful Connie Lush.
And
that's some female voiced lineup there, right there.
And Deetra Farr. I know
Deetra.
Not too many people.
I'm fully. An acquaintance of ours, Richard Simmons. Worked with Deetra and toured in Europe with her, and also played New Orleans with her, I believe, many years ago. So class. I mean, this is class stuff we're talking here.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly, and they're all sort of well, again, it's sort of blues tune.
Sure.
I remember saying to T-Bone at one point, we ought to call this album Shuffle Heavy because everything was a fucking shuffle, one way or another. Or it started. But anyway, it wasn't, because I was listening to it last night and the Connie Lush track. I got a real tingle with that one.
Yeah.
This is a duet with Connie Lush and Earl Green.
Yeah, loving you is wrong. I don't want to be right.
There are all over this album. There are horn arrangements by the wonderful Nick Payne.
Ah, well.
So there's Nick Payne and Noel Norris playing.
Yeah.
He did all the arrangements. And,
great musician, Nick Payne.
So I've got this.
One of our heroes.
There's one track on there which it stands out to me because I asked T-Bone to play wah-wah guitar or something. It's not something that he does. He's very much a kind of T-Bone Walker, Barney Russell kind of very laid back ish.
Very little effect. It's
the
guitar and the amp and that's enough. Yeah, I know.
He's not a big sort of pedal man.
No.
But anyway, he plays the intro to this, and it's just, to me, it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's perfectly.
Well, I've heard bits of that album and
perfectly judged.
Yeah, the performances are superb on there because the musicianship quality is so high.
Well, there's
but
that.
You can still, you still got to get a performance out of people.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
And you did capture that. So I'm not just being nice for the sake of it. It really is.
In that case, I got lucky. That's all I can say. Because they were. Anyway, I've always thought that Connie Lush was underrated.
Oh, absolutely.
There are plenty of quite well known, probably. I'm saying this. Sort of girl singers, female singers, who claim to be bluesers.
They haven't got a. They shouldn't even be in the same atmosphere because I know what you mean. I mean, those girls were, those five names you mentioned there. They're all class acts. They've all made their own records and they've all done very well, and rightly so because they're class acts. And but you see, the thing is, they trusted you to produce them, and you got great performances.
I don't think they were trusting me at all. I think they're just getting paid.
Well, you can be cynical as you like. I think you've been unkind to yourself there because I know, it doesn't. Yes, that's obviously part of it, but
yeah, of course.
There
was no sort of up in the air. I mean, they were getting paid, but not very much.
No, well, there you go. It's not totally. It's not always about the money.
Certainly not. What
it rarely is, actually, to be fair. But that's another thing altogether. Now,
anyway, there you go.
So, I know for a fact. A little side note to this whole British blues scene that we've both been involved with for many years. The Blues in Britain magazine, which Fran Leslie used to edit and run, used to put out compilation albums. And I was lucky enough to be on a couple of them 2 years running. 99 and 2001, that's right. Of which both of them she asked you to compile the tracks for.
Yes.
Now that's some responsibility in lots of ways because you've got to pick the.
No, I didn't. I didn't choose the tracks.
Okay.
They were already chosen. What I needed to do was string them all together.
Right. Gotcha.
And try and normalise it. And say normalise just means some of them are really loud and some of them are really quiet. And I managed to sort of find some people to say this is what you should do or tell me what to do. So that's all I really did.
Oh, gotcha.
Was to
but it's
kind of remaster them in a way.
Yeah, to make a cohesive album.
Yes.
Yeah, I gotcha. Now, I first met you in 2001, I think, and we did a festival together at the Blues on the Farm.
The first gig we did was near your hometown. It was in Reigate. A New Year's Eve gig.
But that was a piano bar. Actually, that's right. It was Piano Bar 2001. But I'm talking about with the whole band. It was the festival, the Blues on the Farm festival.
Was it really?
Yeah, in 2002. Actually, 2002. That's right.
Okay.
And on that bill was some cracking people. Hubert Sumlin was on it, and I think Paul Jones and the Blues Band had been on it at some point, but maybe on a different day. Various American artists. It was a great festival, and Munch had been on earlier with someone else because you were doing 2 gigs in a row that day.
Hershey and the 12
Bars. And it was Hershey. Now I was going to get round to Hershey because Hershey and the 12 Bars will come up a lot in conversations I'll have with various people over this series because Richard Sherman, who ran Hershey and the 12 Bars, again from a great 60s band, I believe The Action, if I remember rightly. The Attack, that's right. I knew it began with A. There was Art Woods, The Attack, The Action, they all had an A. The Attack, and they were a highly regarded 60s sort of mod band, really, weren't they?
Well,
of
they
sorts.
kind of passed me by a bit, but
yeah, they were like something like a Downliner Sect and several other bands. They were around at the time, never really got a hit, but were always highly regarded. And Richard came out of that, and you know, but you worked with him and played on his last album, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, because that lineup was quite fluid, wasn't it, to say the least? There was a lot of people coming in and out of it, depending on who was available.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that.
Over the years, that is, you know.
Oh, yes.
You know,
yeah.
I know.
Well, in that case, I was one of the last.
Right.
The last of those. Yes, the Gary Mobley, great organ player.
Yeah. Hi, Gary, if you're watching.
Yeah, Richard Simmons again.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Sure. Just you know, people who could murder me, actually. Dave Lennox. Bless him. All of the original.
Yeah.
Well, he'd been, you know, he was. You his musicians and really.
Yeah, he did, and did a lot of great work, and used to get some wonderful gigs. But instead of, if they got, I know funny stories, if they got extra money on gigs, he'd inevitably hire more musicians rather than pay more money to the ones he had there already.
Just get another horn player.
Yeah, just get another horn player in, which is great, you know. But I only caught a little bit of, again, you were on the same festival, we did the one at the Final Maltings in 2000, this was. And I believe you were playing with, in the main hall on that festival, and we were in the cellar bar.
Oh, yeah.
With Mike Summerland was playing guitar for you.
Yeah.
And Alan Coulter was on drums. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
And keyboards you. And who was the bass player in that band?
Chaz Cronk.
Chaz Cronk. Well, there you go.
Another wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah. From the Strawbs, of course. Yeah. And this is what I mean. These people. There's a bin full here, by the way. The names are getting higher and higher. We're bordering on overflowing here. But I love all this. It's great because it just it gives people an idea, because you can walk past people in the street. You know, as we all do. You don't know anything about them, and then you might have a conversation with them. Suddenly, these people have had amazing lives, you know, and met interesting and worked with interesting people and legendary figures, and the essence of this whole thing is about bringing that out, you know, to highlight the fact that people like Dave, and to a less degree like myself, have been in those circles, and for whatever reason we didn't quite attain the heights that the big names did, but it doesn't deter the fact we've had amazing lives doing something we love, you know. Now I'm just going to do a bit of housekeeping here, ladies and gentlemen. It's all very well good watching these things, but please, I need people to subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel, Paul Cox, and check out all of the various music videos and everything else that are going to be on this channel that I've done over the years, links to my albums and everything else. And one thing I must push is the fact that Dave and I are in a band called Paul Cox Soul Intention, and we have a big show coming up on the 4th of July at the Crier Arts Centre in Carshalton. So please book your tickets, come down and see a 7-piece soul band playing some great material, classics and some more rarer stuff. It's going to be a great night. Crier Arts Centre, 4th of July, book your tickets. Because of time constraints, once again, I'm going to have to call it a day there, but it's been an absolute pleasure, Dave. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Pleasure.
And
always doing it again.
Absolutely. Always a joy. Well, there's always time for more with these things, but you know, we've already gone slightly over. But ladies and gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.